Since there are quite a few people here, and thank you all for being here tonight, this is really important to the town and to everyone. So please state your name and whether or not you're a resident in Jackson, so we can get that for the record for the minutes. We are recording this as well, so this will be on Jackson Clicks, but as far as just making sure we have the formalities, please let us know who you are. We have a microphone in the back, so I would like to have folks use that, and I'm wondering if we should move that up front here. The standing microphone? I can do that, right?
Thanks everyone for being here. My name is Barbara Campbell and I am the chair of the Select Board of Jackson. Again, I really want to thank everyone for being here. This is a really important night and I can't wait to see you all at town meeting also. And the budget hearings, which I will give the dates of later. So per RSA 33:1, we are here tonight to discuss the town of Jackson obtaining a bond in the amount of $5,582,135 for the purpose of building a new fire station in Jackson. What I'm going to do next is read the proposed bond warrant article in full. This is not a formality, or it won't be formally adopted unless we agree on the language by the end of the meeting. Oh. 5,580,000. I'm an accountant, I'm not good with numbers. Okay, let's start this. I'll read the formal warrant article here. This is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,582,135 for the purpose of building a new fire station. Such sum to be raised through the issuance of bonds or notes under and in compliance with the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33:1, as amended, to authorize the selectmen to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, or other aid, if any, which may be available for the said project, and to comply with all laws applicable to said project. To authorize the select board to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver said bonds and notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon and the maturity and other terms thereof, and to authorize the select board to take any other action or to pass any other vote relative thereto. That is the way the bond article, warrant article is being proposed at this time. We will have Bob Thompson give a little bit of a higher level presentation. We have the drawings, conceptions, we have the experts here that have been on the committee the whole time, and so they will be available and we'll ask for public comments after Bob is done.
So tonight's a accumulation of the work we've done since March when the voters directed us to do a design and engineering study to determine the needs of a new station and the cost of the new station. And that's how we built the bond warrant, with the amount that represents 8 months worth of work to determine through general contractors, subcontractors, mechanical engineering, plumbing firms, just what the total cost of the building would be. And if you haven't been following as closely as others, we're talking about a building that's going to be situated between the current fire station and the town office, where there's about 7 or 8 head-in parking spots. That's where the new station will be located. So we've spent the last, well, the initial look at this was 7 years ago, when the town put together a committee to explore the possibilities of how to upgrade our station due to the safety and efficiency concerns of the first responders working out of that station. It was built in 1947 and in many ways has served its usefulness as a fire and rescue station. And so we looked at renovations, and that was considered to be cost prohibitive as far as expanding the footprint due to environmental concerns, due to a number of different issues. And so the new station was where we ended up determining was the best use of town appropriated funds. We had issues a year ago at this time determining the location. It was based on a 2021 architect study and floor plan that was situated in a number of places in town, but the current station that you're seeing all around you and the plans that are being circulated that I see is a site-specific station that's going to be located right where I described earlier for you. We're here tonight to make sure that we've got the language in the bond that people want to see. We're here tonight to hear from you anything that you have in the way of questions about what's not clear, or make any comments you think are appropriate at this time to make regarding this project. We've got the fire station, the builder, we've got committee member at large, Tim Scott, up here. We have the rest of our design and engineering committee here as well. Most of them are hanging out in the front row up here. The architect, the engineer, the builder that helped with it, and the rest of the fundraising crew that's now looking at ways to fund as much of this as we can in other areas than a bond. But the bond has to be approved before you start counting on grants to come through. If you're going to submit for a grant, and we are, you have to have a voter-approved bond in place, voter-approved funding, I should say, in order to qualify for grant funding assistance. So that's what has to come first. So having given that, and I guess I'm making some assumptions that the large number of you have been following this for the last several years, and where we looked at sites and where we looked at floor plans and how detailed that you wanted this work to be at this point, or you wouldn't have approved the $250,000 warrant article at last March's meeting, to get us to the point where we are very clear and have an absolute specific number on what that cost is going to be, what that contingency should be. A number of reasons that the contingency is what it is because we're going into old Gray's Inn property, and many of you know that. There's fire detritus and ash and wood and concrete in that area. So that site's going to be a little bit more to do site work with, but at the same time, we've done a lot of boreholes and looked at a lot of what's under there. We have a really good idea what's there and why that site work's going to be a little bit more, but that's where we are right now with everything. So I don't know if anybody wants to say anything more up here before we turn it loose. And the purpose of the hearing is really to hear from you, address as many of your questions as we can tonight. Anybody wants to ask a question that we don't know the answer to, we'll do our best to get it to you as soon as we can.
Would you mind standing up to the microphone there? And Dave, can you make sure that microphone is on? Please. My audio visual.
Good idea. Records. I've been a resident of Jackson for about 55 to 60 years. I pretty much, I don't know if people want to hear me this or you're not talking to my back or what.
You can turn around if you feel
Yeah,
better,
okay.
but you're really addressing
I
the
might be
committee.
taking on, I'm pushing 90.
Yeah.
Could be this, wow, to stand up. I pretty much stayed clear of this fire department situation. First of all, I want to thank all the volunteers, the firefighters, everything. They deserve everything they should have. And the town should be willing to provide for them. That being said, at the last town meeting, we had a warrant article that passed for $250,000 for a design and engineering studies for a new fire station. And I guess one thing before I get talking about that, you know, where is the directive been for us to build a new fire station? Has it come from the New Hampshire Fire Marshal? Has it come from legal court proceedings or something? Has it come from voters of the town? Or has it just come from an interesting group of people who want a new fire station? And so that's kind of a question I have. I don't know, other than the people in the fire department itself that talk to somebody, I don't know who's in charge of it. Okay, getting back to the $250,000 engineering study and design. Who's responsible for those funds? Who's paying the bills? You mentioned you've got different subcontractors and you've got whoever. Have we spent $250,000 already? It seems that we've spent a lot to outline a number of deficiencies within that we have. And there's 50 plus. I haven't got time to go through all of them. It take weeks to go through all of them. But most of them I find pitiful. Some of them I find laughable, and other ones I find angry at. And you know, it's. I think one of the ones that hit me the most was the fact that the appearance of the building, as it stands, is not an adequate site for a town's fire station. It's wrong. And then it goes, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. And then there's another issue, another comment about the appearance of the fire station. That it's not something that represents the pride of the community. You know, what we want is a nice, pretty looking fire station, maybe with a nice photograph in front of it with a horse-drawn sleigh for all the new STR short-term rental people in town. They would like that. I guess a couple of the deficiencies that I like to talk about, that some of them are to do with non-code requirements. As a station stands now, these are requirements that are grandfathered in and can be fixed. They don't have to be fixed up to code, but using common sense, they can be fixed to be used. This fire station's been used for 50-odd years, and somehow it's managed to maintain itself, put new equipment in, and different things like that. And I guess the big thing is we're lacking a maintenance section for the fire department. We have $1 million state-of-the-art maintenance facility 100 yards up the road from the fire station. So, you know, figure that out. I guess I won't get into other things. These ADA requirements, they're legitimate. Most of them are patterned after California, Oregon, and Washington specifications. You know, we can use a lot of common sense down here. And I think getting back to the community pride that the building, this site is not adequate. I remember back 15 to 20 years ago when different problems existed at the old grammar school. And different people of us, we all got together and looked at the problems and solved them. We didn't have to have a study made by some smart engineering group that knew more than we do. And I think at the time, we went in and repaired a sewer system, we built a library, we put in some new play equipment, all by volunteer residents. We had some good residents. Unfortunately, most of our residents have either gone by or have moved out. I'm kind of pushing, being one of the last ones, pushing 90. But that was community pride. And it still works. It still works today. We don't need $1,000 fees to look at a problem that we know how to solve. And again, I want to thank the volunteers that have worked with us, and they do meet these different requirements that they spell out. A couple of the ones that I find kind of laughable, that they don't know how to place the refrigerator in the microwave. And it seems to me that between our volunteers, male or female, with some domestic experience, probably could figure that out. You know, so I don't want to ramble on. I don't want to ramble on. I'm just telling you how I feel, and I'm sure there are other people the same way. Let's use some common sense. Thank you.
Thank you, John. A couple things that you did ask at the beginning was, who is asking for the new fire station? And I think that's a really good point. And one that we've talked about since the beginning, I think. This is not a wish list of the fire department. And it's not something where they came up and said, we're not going to take this anymore, we can't work in this station. This has been a committee of people from the select board and of course having firefighters on that committee, but many of the citizens and past select board members that have been on this committee and really caring about the condition of the building and as it is fit and not fit for the firefighters and the equipment. So it's led by a lot of people in the town, and it's been led by a few different people over the last 7 years, but it is a collaborative effort for a building that really does need to be replaced. And I say replaced because over those 7 years, we also have done our due diligence on figuring out, can we repair this building? Is it worth it? Once we spend $150,000 or $100,000 on a sprinkler system, where does that get us? It's one step closer. But these piecemeal things do not get us where we need to be at the end result to offer a safe, adequate facility for the firefighters in our town and the equipment that we spend a lot of money on. The other thing is we have a great opportunity down the road to offer other facilities that the town might need by using the current station and the property there, the old Gray's Inn garage. So it's a step towards moving the community forward. And so that was one question. The other thing, yes, we have spent close to the amount of $250,000 on the study. And like Bob said, the goal of that study last year at this time was to come up with the shovel-ready plan to build a fire station, and that's why we're here tonight with this dollar amount. So we are ready as soon as the taxpayers and voters say go to build a new fire station. And of course, that's where we are. We're waiting for the yes or the no. But this is where we are. It's come along in the past 9 months so much farther than we've ever gotten. And it gives us a really good goal for not just the fire station, but what other opportunities we can have as a result of having an adequate fire station. Emergency facilities, public restrooms. So that's a couple of the questions you had, I think, at the beginning.
As far as the new fire station, there were alternatives to using other towns and paying them for services to render the town. And I'm not sure that those were totally followed or whatever.
Yes.
They probably been looked at. And I'm not a financial expert, and I appreciate the people that are involved in working with this bonding and financing and everything else. But I think some of the impact on the residents' tax increase as a result of this bond and stuff, I think they're, pretty up a little bit. Okay, they're based on certain things. We don't know what the county rates are going to continue. We're being reappraised every so many years, every 5 years or as far as the new fire station is going to require a lot of maintenance. I suppose we're going to have a house clean the 288 bathrooms, and most likely we'll probably apply a grant for a third one, gender approval. Anyway.
Thank you, John.
I thank all you guys, Jay, everybody that's worked on this thing. I wish we still had the Ray Abbotts and a few other people around that had some common sense.
Next.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Thank you.
I'm Laurel Smith. I'm a resident of Jackson. I'm also chair of the board of the Library Board of Trustees. And I had a couple of questions about the drawings. And I want to first say thank you for having real drawings that we can look at and look at the location. My first question is, these are detailed drawings, but my question is why, when on the Jackson Public Library, does it say approximate for the location?
Yeah, because the plan that we worked off of, the original plan, that location was not precise. At the time that plan was put together, the location of the library was not precisely located. So it could be all put one direction or two, that doesn't impact the project. We didn't hire a surveyor to locate the building exactly. The current plan actually is located correctly, but at the time that plan was put together, it was not.
The second question I have is about the location of the septic, and just some questions of what is the septic system, which buildings, is it just the building or is it also other buildings on the site or around? And the question about the impact of digging up the septic system, what impact that might have on the garden area, and also the programs that the library runs. In the summer, we do have a tent that's put up at the beginning of the summer in a permanent location, and just want to make sure that we know what's happening with if the septic is made with the digging. And I'm assuming at this point that has no impact on the current library septic system.
Bert?
Yes.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Sure, yeah. There's the existing septic system where the new building's going to go. That septic system serves the town office, it serves the existing fire station, it serves the curio shop, and it serves the apartment building next to that. It's just, there's a lot in there that goes in there. So this one will serve the new fire station plus the existing one in that area. You can walk on it, anything you want on the top of the grass. It'll be very, you won't see a raised mound or anything, it'll be flush in the ground. The ground won't look any different when it's done. The other thing we need to be careful of is that you know where it's going first, you know, or a skate for a tank, a pipe or something along those lines. So you probably want to have those staked out before you run the stake.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Next.
Hello, my name is William Anderson, resident of Jackson. And on the handout, where you do the property tax estimate, it says it's the 2003 assessed valuation. Is that to be adjusted for the recent reassessments?
There is an adjustment. Hang on 1 second.
2023. So the 846 million is 2023 assessment.
Okay, I see where you're going.
That would impact the estimated property tax increase.
Yeah,
That is the current assessed value. It should be 2024.
It
If
should
the
be,
municipal bank put this together.
okay.
So
So
it
it should reflect our new assessed value from the current free value that we have.
Okay, so that 846 million is the most recent assessed value.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's
Thank
not
you for
20.
pointing that out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, John Lewis, President. I just have, if you could speak a little bit about federal funding, state funding, and what due diligence, I know you can't apply for any grants till the bond passes, but what due diligence have you done to look into what's available and the timeline around that? And is that something you're handling as a committee or you outsource that?
That's a good question. We've actually got, as part of our committee looking at the design and engineering study, had people on board to figure out how we could pay for this other than taxes. Emily Benson, Tim Scott, Greg Malaberti were sitting on the committee, and that was their role. And I'll start with Emily, if you want to give a quick rundown.
Yep, I'll come up.
Do you want to sit?
Nope.
Okay.
We're good. Thanks a lot for that question. So over the past couple of years, we've been in touch with a number of different federal, state, and local resources for different grant opportunities. Representatives from Senator Shaheen's office, former Congresswoman Custer's office, Congressman Pappas's office. We've been keeping in touch with them to learn about different things that are available. Whether it's through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, their community development block grants. There are also some fundings through the USDA Rural Development Community Facilities Direct Loaning Grant programs. Some of these things we do not qualify for. For example, the grant program that I just mentioned. We do qualify for the loan program. However, when you're kind of weighing the pros and cons, looking at interest rates associated with the bond and interest rates associated with the loans, you're always kind of chicken and egging it or going to that. We also have pursued funding through FEMA for their Assistance to Firefighters grant programs. We've filed a grant for that, looking at some equipment. The other tricky thing is that we have to look at we file that, you talk about shovel-ready projects. They're always looking at what's the period of performance, how long is it going to take to build, so that's what we've been weighing with some of these different things. But we do have a grant that an application we submitted with them. We hope to get a decision on that in the summer, and we'll see what happens with that. There's also community project program appropriations requests that we can make directly to Congress. Senator Shaheen oversees some of that appropriations requests. That most recent time period is coming up in February, but as we were cautioned by Senator Pappas's office, there's a lot in flux now with the new administration coming in, so we have to see how that goes. The other line of funding is through hazard mitigation assistance grant programs. This is again through FEMA, but we apply through the state of New Hampshire. We submitted a letter of intent with the hazard mitigation assistance program for grant funding $700,000 to support the site work to be done. As was mentioned, there are some tricky aspects to this site, and so the funding that we are looking at to hopefully address some of those hazards in the site work. Again, we don't have a guarantee of, getting that funding. It's all very competitive, but we'll go for what we can find. So
I bring it up because I'm involved in that part. And we were fortunate to get close to $1 million for future housing.
oh, for housing. Housing's a great spot to be in for grants, right?
Well, it was in the infrastructure bill, so
Yep.
we're not going to use it to build the houses, but
Mhm.
we're going to use it to build the road.
Awesome.
That's infrastructure, right? So-
Yep.
And you have a similar thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that we're really keeping our fingers crossed on is there's legislation out there to create a fire station building construction grant program.
Yeah.
That has been held up in committee through recent years, and so hopefully some of those decisions will be made as we look forward with the new administration coming in, and so hopefully we can look at some of those funds. So.
Thank you.
Is this in relation to the grants?
It's relation to what you said, and
Okay.
I'm Sarah Clement.
Yeah.
My question to you is, there are people I think that are in the building that weren't here and do not understand possibly why you're saying the site has questionability, because they weren't here when Gray's Inn was here, or the Gray's Inn fire took place, and what might be in this area. So I think that would be worth maybe just a little history to explain why you're saying the site is a little difficult.
That's a really good point. And I'll defer that question to somebody else who might answer it better. Fur? Right? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we actually looked first, one of the things was looking at the existing fire station site, and we did some holes there, and it was very undesirable from what was below the ground, plus water issue, the real water issue here. This site looked a lot better and still is a lot better, but when we dug out back to do test pits along the back of the site, the septic system, we found where Gray's Inn burned, they took a lot of the building debris and buried it, the hole, and covered it over. So that's the question mark, is exactly how much, what the extent is. We think we got a pretty good handle on it. We actually think we have a pretty good handle on the cost to dispose of it, but it's a question mark until we actually do the digging. So that's why they're pretty contingency to kind of cover ourselves on. Just the old ash, there's one section we looked down, there was probably 5-6 feet down, there was asphalt from a basketball court, a concrete walkway, some of these other things that are still there from Gray's Inn, but they're very.
Pipes and all of that kind of stuff in the building itself, correct? I mean, that was a big issue.
Yeah, it wasn't, the soil looked very dark from the ashes and the heavy ash in there too. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't, I don't know, it didn't look terrible to me there, but there are regulations that we have to test the soil, there's associated costs with that, disposal of the cost.
So we do have we're in the process of part of the design, was we hired the environmental engineer to come up and do test pits where we know the burnt debris is. So that's actually in the process of being finished up as we speak. So we'll know exactly what testing will be done with it, so we'll know exactly what we're dealing with that.
So again, are you telling me that by the time we get to March and our meeting, we'll have a number of how many dollars it will cost to remove?
We'll have a little bit better idea on that part of it, but everybody's really confident that we're covered right now. Anyway, we've done a lot of pre-work on it.
But Sarah, I do want to tell you that the number will not go over this amount. This is the amount that we're putting forward. So that's where there's a $400,000 contingency built into this to bring it up to $5.5 million. So it will not go over that amount. More questions? Yes.
Kevin Donahoe and I live in Jackson. And I'm just trying to get a perspective on the notion of what if. And if this measure fails, is there sort of a second backup plan on what we're going to do? Is that something you've talked about, or are you waiting to think that out later?
Those are conversations that have been going on for the last 7 years, and we're here tonight because we were directed to take a look at an accurate cost of a new facility, and that's what we did, and that's what we're here tonight to ask for the bond for. So we know when we looked at the current fire station that we couldn't address a lot of the needs of the essential services that come out of that building without expanding the footprint. And because of the state of things out back, we can't really expand that footprint. So that's what brought us here to the new construction bond hearing tonight.
Kevin? No, not Kevin, I'm sorry.
Peter.
Peter? Yes.
Hello, Peter Benson. Just clear, I'm speaking as a citizen, not as anything else. And to some questions about land and how we use it in the town, I just want to say there is no jet fire department land and town office land and library land. It's town land. And if the town decides in its good wisdom to change things around, that's for the good of the town. We don't parcel out our pieces of land here. So if we have to move a tent, which is not permanent, if we have to move a tent or a garden or a septic system or an old town hall, and people deem it's worthy to do it, it should be done. But we shouldn't get compartmentalized in thinking that there are pieces of land that belong to distinct entities in the community. Thank you.
Yes, Willis.
It's probably more of a comment, I don't have a question.
You have 4 minutes.
I think I can talk loud enough so I don't have to worry about the microphone. I just want to say, this isn't a pipe dream. This didn't just fall out of the sky. There's been a lot of discussion about it. I joined the Jackson Fire Department as a junior member when I was 14 years old. That's 56 years ago. And I have to say, sitting on many committees of many different projects in this town, we have used common sense. I think I got a little common sense as a 5-generation native of Jackson. And we've used common sense. The common sense that we've used in the last 7 years, as the selectman pointed out, the building that we have is almost 80 years old. It's been added to, renovated, sided, you name it, fixed, unfixed, to the point it's gone beyond that. It's not a dream, it's a need. And when we have a need, just like I'm going to quote, the Jackson Historical Society has a need to address our town hall. It's not an old town hall, it's the only town hall. It's not a land issue, it's the only land we have. The need is there, the need has been there. There's been numerous meetings, there's been numerous open houses that we've gone through a lot of these same discussions. And I would also like to point out, and a lot of people in here probably don't know this, but my biggest fear, having put all those years in the fire department for the town of Jackson, yeah, it's a $5 million project. Tonight, God forbid, if we had a fire in the fire station, unprotected building, there's $10 million on the table that needs to replace all the trucks, all the equipment on them, all the gear, and everything that makes our life support and make your life safer to have a fire department that doesn't take days off, they don't have vacations, 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. Somebody's got to answer that call when somebody's in need. And that's what they are there for. And the town supports that, has supported it tremendously. And I compliment the current selectmen that have seen the common sense to, okay, it's time to address the need, but it's up to the people. It's not up to the fire department members, it's not up to the selectmen, it's not up to some of the committees that's worked on it. This needs to go in front of the people and let the people decide if the need is there. Whether it's 5 million, 500,000, or 50 million, you can't put a price on need. If you need it, you've got to figure out how you're going to pay for it. And I think it's a great thing that they've put in front of us to have the least impact on the tax dollars and address a need that is very badly needed there. And I implore anyone between now and March to call any selectman or firefighter and go and see the building and go see what the trucks have to go through. Just to check the oil in 2 of the 4 vehicles, you have to pull them outside a door. Things of that nature. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now, 4 degrees above zero, we had a horrible structure fire. It was 19 or 20 members that turned out for that fire in that horrible conditions. When they got back, gear had to be spread. I got 9 pictures in my camera of gear that was draped everywhere in the world. And an hour and a half later, we had a rekindle, and you had wet frozen gear to try to get in. Things of that nature. These things can be addressed under a need, and I implore you to look at the fact there is a need there. And by God, I know at least I would say my personal opinion, the common sense has been there. We've had a lot of it. And I really think that the people here know that. There's not a whole lot that this town does that common sense doesn't go into the need. And we satisfy the need. Thank you.
Questions, comments? Yes?
A little bit of both.
All right. You want to step up to the microphone and tell me who you are?
My name is Jack Tracy. I'm from Jackson. When I think about the logic of this, it makes total sense. But it begs a bigger question for me too, because it presupposes that we also have the personnel, the staff, the building, and the equipment, etc. Right? The whole logic of having a fire department in your town is they're going to save your building. And so I guess my question to the chief and everybody that's been involved in the decision is, what kind of thinking has gone in to that aspect of it, so we can have more of this guy?
So I'm going to start answering that, and then I'm going to let somebody else piggyback on that if you want to. Thank you.
I hate to say narrow-minded, but the fire department does not just put out fires. They respond to every single CO2 call, alarm, automobile accident. They do fire inspections for every single a building that's in town for a business, and that prevents fires. They educate people on making sure that a simple thing as your battery is checked in your fire alarm or your smoke detector and your CO2 detector. They make sure that 911 postings are at your house. There's so many more things they do than respond to fires. And thank God that they're there for all of those other things. But when we have had 2 major fires in town this year, one at Thornhill Inn and the one at Wentworth just recently that Willis talked about, thank God that no one died. One of our firefighters went back into the building, which of course they tell us never to go back into the building, but they did because it was right before Christmas. They rescued an animal and they took Christmas presents out of a burning building to help these people. They do so much more than put out fires. They prevent fires. They educate people. They represent the safety of this town. And I am so proud that we have the firefighters that we do. We need more folks like that. Like Willis has said many times, how are we going to get the newer, younger folks to come into town if they can't afford to live here, if they can't get involved in the fire department? We're always pushing those issues. We have so many volunteer committees in this town to work on housing, to work on getting younger folks in this town. We're always pushing for that. Jay, do you want to piggyback on that at all as the fire chief?
So on the personnel side, if I understand what you're asking, a couple items there. everybody knows we're definitely, the fire department is aging, and, you know, there's a lot of older members for sure. A new station definitely addresses a lot of the issues with having older people at the station, whether it be an elevator or lift or access, being able to walk around the trucks safely. I mean, all you gotta do is walk through the existing fire station right now, tonight, and you'll be, if you haven't been in that station, you'll wonder how we even get around the trucks.
Oh, I appreciate the logic.
And
I guess where I'm going with this is kind of where we were dabbling a little bit earlier, which is, it's like, do you become that center, or do you become feeding into a hub someplace else? So you centralize a facility that's kind of optimized to serve more than one community, so that you gather more individuals into this bigger facility, right? Does every town need what we're proposing? Or can a couple of towns get together and do that as a team?
We have looked into that and neighboring with other towns, and we do serve a great deal of mutual aid to Bartlett and Conway, as they did for us in the fires that we've had here. At this point, it's not something that is attractive to Jackson, and we've given that a lot of thought. Not just personalities, the philosophy, the pride of our town. There are a lot of things that go into that, and it's
I'm just
not
addressing the
attractive.
scarcity of labor
Yeah.
looking forward. When you've made an investment of a significant amount. When your insurance rates are already going up. So all the pressure points are being pressed, you know?
It's accepted and understood in communities that upgrade their fire stations that it improves recruitment and adds to the staff. If you want to go into some sort of a partnership with another town, you will be giving up control. And it's just that simple. Are we still going to house our $5 million worth of equipment in an inadequate storage area by keeping it at the station? Then who's really going to be around every single morning that it snows to remove the ice berm so the trucks can get out of the station? Because that has to happen, or they're going to hit the top of that door jam. It's as simple as that. So how do you? And it's not going. And it's not going to allow us to keep control of our fire and rescue services. Are you going to sell off the equipment and have it housed somewhere else? What's your response time going to be at that point? I mean, we've had conversations like this for years, and that's why we got to the point where it became clear to us all, as far as logic, that there's just no way in the world that you can give up control and see your taxes go down and your response times go down and your ability to provide fire and rescue services to the town go down, and have that work for the citizens of this town.
Deirdre, did you have a comment? Hold on one second.
I'm Deirdre. I am a resident of Jackson, and I am on the fire department, actually. And to address your question about personnel, I don't know which way I should be facing. Maybe I'll face this side, maybe have my back to you. Is that Jay and I did some recruiting last year. We did a lot of recruiting through e-news and a couple of other ways, and we got 4 new members. One of them sitting here in the room right now. But we were able to recruit 4 people, and they're not, 80 years old, so that's positive. So it is possible to recruit new people. People do move to town. We just have to get out there and be in front of them and see if they want to contribute to the fire station, because there is a need. And we do show up to all kinds of calls all the time. So anyway, I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So
Jay, do you want to, and then Jerry, I'll get you a, go ahead, Jay.
I just wanted to finish answering. So we have researched a bunch of stuff with other towns, and first off, we have an extremely good mutual aid between the whole valley. If anybody noticed at the Wentworth fire a couple weeks ago, it was Center Conway, North Conway, Bartlett Fire, Jackson Fire.
Yeah.
So we all work together. The couple of the quick items is, I've looked at, if I could get rid of it, one fire truck, I gladly would, because they're extremely expensive, they cause us a lot of work, a lot of maintenance, they take up a lot of space. But we really can't, we need the three big trucks, I call them, that we have in order to do basically a successful initial attack, whatever that attack is, whether it's a car accident, a fire, or whatever. So there's no, you're not gonna, even if you look valley-wide, you're not gonna change the amount of apparatus. It takes what it takes. Same way that we've worked for 70 years, basically. I mean, we had three fire trucks baby fire trucks in Jackson 50 years ago. So that hasn't changed. The location of the fire station can't change. I don't think you're gonna wanna wait for somebody to come from Innervale with a fire truck. So the location can't change. I mean, you need to have a central, so none of that, you know, the only, and as far as if anybody's thinking, well, we'll just subcontract, we'll pay North Conway to come put our fires out. You're not gonna gain nothing, nothing. You're gonna still pay big money, but you're gonna lose control, like Bob said.
Well, when they come to the Wentworth, are they coming on their dime or?
Yes, it's mutual aid. We don't help them, they come help us.
So what you're saying is, I'm not worried about the pool that just works in Jackson, because I can draw on all these people. I got the equipment right here. So I can deploy the equipment to do whatever I have to do early, and then if I need reserves, the valley will give it to us for free.
Yeah, there's no money involved. It's we help them, they help us.
Thank you. That's useful to know.
Jerry?
Yeah, Bob, the concept that you
Jerry,
talked
do you mind
about.
coming up to the microphone, please? Thank you.
Jerry Dougherty, Jackson. Bob, the concept that you talked about having a joint operation with Bartlett or another town, you said it gives up control. We have a successful ambulance service with Bartlett. We don't have our own. And that works very well. I wonder how that you would square that out.
Well, the ambulance service is right down the road. If you're thinking that you're going to get Bartlett firefighters up here and at the same type of response time that we need to address issues that incur in Jackson, I think that's where the discussion was. So yes, we have mutual aid agreements between towns, but we don't have joint services between the towns. It's difficult to understand how that would happen without us giving up control. Yeah, well, yeah, and obviously, you're either going to be housing fire trucks in an inadequate facility, or they're going to be leaving town.
I think it's safe to say that every response, firefighters did first before the ambulance. I mean, the ambulance is transport.
I don't want to demean any of the services, whether it be police, fire, or ambulance, because we really have such an amazing crew on all three of those services. I've had a situation where literally a first responder came running down my driveway and they did not have the ambulance, they didn't have the fire truck, but they were able to help at that point. Now, can someone from Bartlett without a fire truck help me with a fire? Probably not. Can they help with CPR and a few other things? So it's different animals. We're very fortunate, like I said, to have very highly skilled and trained first responders all around. But the equipment is really important and a big difference in the services. Yes?
Good evening, Peter McGlynn, Jackson, Merrill Lake Road. I have a comment and a couple of questions. First, the comment is, other than venerated and venerable buildings like the White House, U.S. Capitol, our State House, historic buildings, every building like the Firehouse has an end date. And at 75 years plus, this building has long since passed its prime. The question is, what do you do if this doesn't get approved? You wait a year? You wait 5 years? You wait 10 years? What do you think the cost is going to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? The construction labor materials costs now are going up at least 7 to 10% per year. And that's a conservative estimate right now. So at $5.5 million, you're going to be up over 6 and maybe even 7 if you keep kicking this can down the road. So that's something to consider. Taking a project like this, and I'm not an expert on building permits in this jurisdiction, but if you try to upgrade this building, you're going to have to bring it up to code, which is going to cost a lot of money. You're going to find a lot of things, probably asbestos, leaky pipes, and so on and so forth. So God forbid you tear apart something, you're going to have to repair it. So consider that. Now, the other question is this. You've got a budget in here of about 5.582. Is that a hard cost? Is that a lump sum bid price from Ritchie Construction?
Yes.
All right. When is that good until? When does he have to get a shovel in the ground?
That was assuming that, that assumes that this passes March town vote.
All right, so he's got to get it in the ground probably in the spring, after the spring.
Get contracts awarded this spring, yes.
And it's lump sum, it's not a cost plus?
It's lump sum.
All right, and I see you've got 400,000 in contingency. How did you come up with that? That's, usually the contingency is about 3%. This is a lot more than that. Are you anticipating unforeseen conditions at subsurface, for example?
Yes, as well as just market volatility. Sometimes we'll do 10%, but all the time and effort, the level of details, so the drawings we put together, we were comfortable with $400,000.
And it's based on the permit set, the pricing?
Yes, sir.
So you're pretty comfortable that this is going to be locked in and not subject? Well, there's always going to be change, you know.
Absolutely.
There'll be change orders. You probably, have you figured out what you think the anticipated change orders are going to be?
No, typically, the majority of the change orders are typically owner-driven. Then when you'll get in, you'll find that, hey, can we do this, can we do that?
Just ask my wife with my new kitchen. The average is going to be 10% for change, whether it's an owner change or some condition that you've uncovered that you need to put in, whatever it is. It's usually, that's about 10% of the cost.
So that typically applies that your kitchen, my guess, is at an existing house that you're renovating, that you're adding a kitchen. This is new construction, it's a bit different.
Do you think this is not going to be a popular question, do you think this is enough money? Is this going to cover it, or are you going to have to come back with the tax?
We will not come back for another dime.
You think?
We will not come back for another dime.
You heard that?
I think that's a really good point to make.
And I don't say that with a smile on my face.
No, I'm not intending to.
But just, we spent a lot of time, everybody, going through these plans. They're detailed. The only unknowns typically are when, and we've done test pits where the new buildings go and we're comfortable with what's under the new building. Any project you need a contingency, I would not put my name with a price attached to it if I wasn't 100% confident.
So I'd like to make a comment, and John can attest. We picked Ritchie Construction because he's built 7, 8 fire stations?
23.
So he actually knows the fire station side of it and the problems of what changes, so he's pretty familiar with fire stations specifically.
Well, my only point is that you've done your homework, hopefully, but be prepared that there may be some bumps in the pricing, just do not expect or unforeseen conditions. So, I mean, you've got that covered, but I had to raise the question, at least for me as a taxpayer. I want to make sure that, you know, we're not going to have to get back and write another big check a year from now. So the point is, ladies and gentlemen, that, you know, if not, when? A year from now, 5 years from now, this will be much higher than this, and you may not even get somebody as qualified as Richie to do it. So that's a point that has to be considered here, because if it's 5,582 now, it's probably going to be at least $1 million if you wait another year or two. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we went around and around on that contingency amount, by the way, and I think that $400,000 represents, I can't remember, we changed it so many times, went back, I think it's 7.7% is what that contingency amount is. And we felt like if we did all the test pits we needed to do, the one unknown, what's under the ground out back, as far as fire debris, would be something that we could get a really clear picture of. And if that was the case, then we could look for that lower contingency amount, which is what we did. And you're right, probably, that it's going to be more money 2 years down the road. I can't imagine how it wouldn't be. But the one thing we do know is it would have been less 2 years ago. There's no question about that. And so there's logic to that in the sense that doing nothing is not an option. We have first responders right now that are in less than safe conditions. So we have to do something. And how are you going to do that? You know, the only plan anybody's ever come up with is let's chip away at things over time. Chip away is a strategy, it's not a plan. You know, when are you going to put the exhaust system in? Are you going to take the drywall out? Is it going to be out for 2 years because it needs to be out when you start looking at the electrical system? And on and on and on it goes, and everybody knows that the minute you get into an old building, you're going to find things you don't know. That's what took renovation off the table. So doing nothing is not an option for this town. And we came up with the most cost-effective way to use taxpayer funds. And the intention is to do everything we possibly can to look for funding assistance so that we can reduce the amount of taxpayer money we're going to need to use to do this. And yet we won't know until we get voter approval for the project.
Yes.
Patty from Penny Forum, from Jackson resident. Could you expand a bit on what the long-term tax implications are, so we know what's coming down the road in terms of, you know, establishing a capital reserve fund, maintenance of the building? Are we going to hire somebody full-time to be custodial and janitorial? And also talk about what's going to happen with the old station, and if money is going to be put in that to upgrade it, or if it's going to be torn down, turned into green space, how it's going to be used and maintained, and what's that going to cost. Thanks.
Thank you. A couple questions in there. We do have the information on the cost of the fire station for the bond. As far as maintenance of the fire station, I don't have an answer for you
on that, but I will have one by the budget hearing. I can't imagine that it's going to cost more than what we have to put in our budget every year for maintenance for the old building, but that would surprise me. The other thing, I believe we have solar energy built into this station, so that's going to be part of savings across, over time. The other thing is we do have somebody that full-time cleans the fire, or not full-time, but somebody that cleans the fire station, so we already have that service. I will have an answer as far as future maintenance costs and what we're projecting. We also have a capital reserve fund for fire station maintenance. So we will be looking at that as far as what we would continue to put into that moving forward. What else did I miss?
The old fire station?
The old fire station, we do not have plans for that. It was a little preemptive to think about what we were going to do with that until we actually know that we are going to be able to build a new fire station. But it does offer a lot of possibility, like we said, for any kind of future buildings or facilities that we want to do, to have in Jackson without doing that much of a renovation. So is it a good building for the fire station? No. Can we use it to store police vehicles and other highway vehicles and things that are stuck in the old grazing garage or whatever? There are things that we can do with it with a very small amount of input and use it for other spaces. We can also use it for shelter and things. So we don't have any firm plans, but we have a lot of things in our head if we can move forward with this. And green space is always a consideration for both that area and the grazing garage area, two of the other parts of the town campus that we have.
And I'll just clarify, it's going to be solar ready. It's not going to have solar panels and solar power, because we looked at everything to go as minimalistic as we could, yet not sacrifice the quality of the project. So down the road, there's no wiring that's going to need to be redone if the town does decide to put solar panels on the building, which it's well positioned for. And there's also going to be, when we dig up and we put the parking lot in the back for our firefighters, we're going to run a cable under there so that there will be a solar-ready parking spot. And that's like $3,000 or something like that. So we're not going to invest in the whole charging system, but it's going to be ready to take a solar powered, or rather an electrical vehicle charging station. That's what I meant. So we didn't really incur the expense of that, but we're going to be smart about it and do what we can for a minimum amount when we put the construction in. Assuming this passes, we will form a committee quickly to take a look at possible uses for the building. It remains to be seen that we would be able to do anything other than house the existing equipment in there next winter. The equipment has to be in a heated building. Is the other building going to be completed and heated and ready to take our equipment a year from now? There's a really good possibility of that, but we don't know, and we're not in a position to solidify plans for better use for that building afterwards. Another thing that we did was we upgraded the septic system so that we could upgrade the plumbing in there, and we could do things that we couldn't otherwise do as far as water use in that current station.
Just a comment on the need of a fire station, and I'm not an insurance agent, but insurance service officers rate fire insurance for insurance companies. And they do it on a scale of 1 to 10. And Chief, you might have some better information. When I was chief, we were at a class 9. And anything we did wasn't going to get us down there until we put a water system in. The Jackson Water Precinct put a hydrant system in. They came in and re-rated us, and I believe it took us down to a 6, and we may be at a 5 now. But when they look at all the firefighting capabilities, they rate that rating for the insurance company that writes your fire insurance. So if we were to theoretically depend on an outside agency, Bartlett, North Conway, what have you, and we lost our rating, your insurance would certainly go up on your fire insurance. And that's federal law. And there's no way around that. But are we still at a 6, Chief, or a 5? Or it's quite a process.
5 and 8 used to be the old numbers. They've changed the numbers, so it's 5 and 5X, but it's the same as what 5 and 5A.
5 would be. And that's
5 in the village with the hydrant system and 8.
And that's all based not only on the water system, but on the capability of the firefighting, the equipment, the age,
Training.
facilities, safety, a lot of things go into that. So it really is a very important thing to keep in mind on that. That yeah, your insurance could very well go up quite a bit without even changing that. But if you change it, it will be certainly a big contributor.
Yeah, insurance going up is quite likely if we start depending on out-of-town services to provide our fire and rescue. And so that could conceivably go up along with this chip away strategy that people are talking about, and you could be paying more than a new construction project would cost. You know, we know that our valuation just went up, but the cost of the bond as it stands right now for a $500,000 valued home would be $285 a year in year one and $155 a year in year 20. Is your house more than $500,000? Just simply do simple math and figure out what it's going to cost you. And we've all got some fresh numbers right now that we can do that with. We've got a town garage bond that's got about 5 or 6 years left in it. We're currently paying, I think, $90,000 a year for that. That's going to time out soon. And I think the last year in place is something like $78,000. Those bond payment amounts go down over time. So that's what the selectmen do. We do our best to manage your taxes, like we did this year with the valuation increase and the need for a salt shed and the need for a design and engineering study. The people that attended the meeting and voted for those warrants last year directed us to do that work, and it took a lot of money to do that. And that was our charge, though, was to manage your taxes. And your property value may have gone up a little bit more than your neighbors or a little bit less, but the amount of money that was spent in this town to provide for you didn't go up drastically because we had ways to address that amount. We have unrestricted funds, and there's still more money in our unrestricted funds accounts than our accountants recommend we keep in there for a minimum amount. So we have leeway, and managing the operations throughout the year allows us to do that. That's why we didn't hear much from people in town about their taxes going up in a really exorbitant way over last year. Even though there was probably a fair bit of anxiety connected with the fact that all of our properties were going to be revalued, I haven't run into too many people that have said their taxes have gone way up. And that will continue to be a priority for the select board.
I've been very vocal in every select board meeting about how important the budget hearings are. To me, they're more integral, and your input is more valuable than the town meeting. These budget hearings are where we present how all of these numbers come together and affect you over the next year, and how we can tighten things up and run our town efficiently. And like you said, with common sense. So I just want to throw out the budget hearings that are January 21st, and we'll have a select board meeting, and then the budget hearing number 1 will follow that, January 21st. The second budget hearing is February 4th. Please, please, please come to those meetings. You also are going to have the budgets available as soon as we can get them out to you. They'll be available through a link on the website. You can pick up a copy at the town office. We're going to make them available before the meeting so you can prepare questions, or if you can't make the meeting, you can contact the select board's office and ask questions, because it's really important. I know not everyone can make these meetings, but it is so important to understand what the budget is made up of, what the money is being spent on, how your town is running, and I just can't stress that enough. When you come to town meeting, it should be asked and answered, and you should know all of the facts of what you're looking at, not at that time kind of challenging and asking the questions. I think most people know that at town meeting, we can only change the total budget amount. We can't change a line item. We can talk about things, but we will not be able to change anything other than the total budget amount. So by coming to the budget meetings, that's where you can ask specific questions. So I can't stress that enough. I really miss you all so much during the year. Karen.
It's not per se to this subject, but I want to make sure that if you want to vote in March for this warrant article, it will not be by absentee. Because it's a warrant article, I believe it has to be at town meeting. So it will not be on paper. So absentees will not be an option. If you want to vote, you need to be present, if I'm correct.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to read the bond warrant article, proposed bond warrant article one more time.
Use the mic, please.
Thank you.
All right. This doesn't have an article number yet, but it will. And this is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,582,135 for the purpose of building a new fire station. Such sum to be raised through the issuance of bonds or notes under and in compliance with the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33:1, as amended, to authorize the selectmen to obtain, and accept federal, state, or other aid, if any, which may be available for said project, and to comply with all laws applicable to said project. To authorize the select board to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver said bonds and notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon, and the maturity and other terms thereof, and to authorize the select board to take any other action or to pass any other vote relative thereto.
I'll make a motion that we approve the bond warrant article for a new fire station as just read.
So, second.
I think Frank has to, the select board has to. I'll second.
We can have discussion after.
We can have discussion. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Comment, Frank?
The only comment I have is that...
You should use a microphone.
I'm sorry. 3 years ago, we had a $5.7 million bond, an idea for it, and 2 of the selectmen said, no, we didn't even want to have it on the town warrant. But I've been pretty clear this time, and I was one of the people that voted against it. But I want the entire town to get a chance to look at this. It's been a good presentation. You know it's all out there. I think we have more knowledge than we've ever had. And so I just say, vote your conscience on March 13th.
Thank you. I appreciate all of you being here tonight. I appreciate all of the questions and comments, and make a motion to adjourn our bond hearing. Oh, yes.
Can I say something first?
Yes?
My name is Kevin Donahoe. I live in Jackson, and I'm also a supervisor of the checklist. And what I want to tell everybody, or remind everyone, is at the town meeting, you're going to come through that door and show us ID to get a card that you'll need to hold up to vote. So you have to be on the list of voters, that's the checklist. And you please have to bring some ID with you, have your driver's license, because there was a big bottleneck last year because people weren't ready to do that. So good, sort things out. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Hello.